Last Friday, I bought this abandoned Victorian home, despite everyone telling me not to.
Told Steven, do not buy this house. We're not going to make any money.
And I'm going to try to prove them all wrong and take it from this to this, or something like this. But we're 6 days in so far, and nothing is going according to plan.
That's why the shit's funky, because it's drunk the whole time.
So in this video, I'm going to document the entire start to finish journey, every single cost. There's something I didn't mention yet. As if this wasn't already hard enough, we only have 90 days to renovate this place. Why? Why such a tight timeline, you might ask? That's a great question. Well, because I had to borrow the money for this renovation, and my investor plopped down $100,000 for me to do this. And he said, listen, you have 90 days to get it done, or else I'm going to charge you a fat penalty. So the story of this house is just as crazy as the deal I had to make to get it. So this house actually sat on the market for a while and no one bought it. And you might be saying to yourself, how is that possible? Because I can see it. It looks quite nice. You're right. And you're also wrong. The floors are almost a foot different height-wise, depending on where you are in the house. It almost makes you seasick to go inside. And then on top of that, all the windows are not operable. Nothing, you can't open a window. To make matters even worse, on the inspection report, because we did get an inspection report, there was a foundation issue. So right there, those are thousands of dollars of repairs. Luckily though, I thought I saw something that other people missed. This comp was $505,000, or ours was listed for $300,000. So not really a terrible spread. So let's talk about the numbers, because the contractor quoted $77,000 in labor for this. The materials we priced out at around $20,000 to $25,000, and that includes appliances, cabinets, everything else. So currently we're at a total of $115,000. It's only been a week. Remember, it was only $100,000 that we had from the investor for this project, and we're already $15,000 over it. It feels like every time I blinked, like another $10,000 disappeared, and we're not even halfway through the video. So just buckle up, because it gets a lot worse. And you may be asking yourself, Steven, what happens in a renovation when you go over your budget? And that's an excellent question. I have absolutely no idea. No sane person should buy a house like this with such a financial obligation. Yet here I am doing it. So you might ask yourself, why? Why are you here doing this? Well, I have two reasons for it. Number one, look at this house. There's almost never a chance in real estate to buy something as historic and interesting, where you can put your creativity into it, where you can also go and find the backstory to it. And this house has an insane history, and I'm still digging up more secrets daily. Neighbors literally drop by to tell me stories. There was a guy that came last week in a 1950s style pickup truck, and he slowed down. I thought he just wanted to look at the house, and said, hey, I used to live here. I said, that's amazing. Very cool. I said, do you want to come in? He said, no, I'm fine out here. I'll just stay put. But I have a box of history about this house that I think you should see, which sounds really creepy. But I chose to make it, in my mind, a happy story. And I told him, yeah, okay, I'll look at it. And he has not brought it back. Jury's still out on if it's a good history or bad history, but that's not the point. The point is that this is extremely unique, and most of the time you just get these standard cookie cutter houses. But more importantly, I think the real reason I bought this house, it reminds me of a house that I bought before, and that house completely destroyed my life and my business. I was renovating a historic house just like this, almost the same layout. Honestly, it's kind of spooky. And I bought it to make it my grand masterpiece of house flipping. I'd flipped houses for years and years and years, and I was going to buy an old historic home in Charleston, South Carolina, and renovate it just how I wanted it. And so I did. And it was beautiful. It was brand new tiles. It was a brand new HVAC, 2 new HVACs, because it was a duplex. It had a new roof. It had the best water heater. It had all new appliances in both kitchens, all new cabinets, all new layouts, gorgeous floors, everything. I took this old historic house and made it into some sort of brand new construction cookie cutter home. And when I went to sell it, the buyers said, this is not cute, it's new, but I don't care, I'm rich, I don't need new stuff. I don't need to care if an HVAC breaks 20 years down the road. If an HVAC breaks on a house I like, I'll just buy a new one. So moral of the story, renovating for rich people equals less stress and more creativity. Although I don't love to do it morally, but there still is a lesson in there. Why the hell are you keeping that? Is probably a question that you're going to ask yourself throughout this series. And I'm going to tell you, these mantles, you see this wood mantle right there? That is a historic gem, and they will stay with this house if it's the last thing I do. No mantles are being moved or no mantles are being relocated. They'll be moved, so we take off the drywall and then we'll put them back. You know what else doesn't get done in a historic house? Painting mantles. These mantles are over 100 years old and they're not going to be painted by some trendy new fab color that Pantone or whatever chose in 2025. Not going to do it. They stay all wood.
Okay, let me tell you what we want to do up here, and this is what we're thinking in terms of the design.
Something we have not been able to figure out is what to do with this trunk room. If you're unfamiliar with the trunk room, it is where people back in the day used to store their trunks. Originally, we were going to try to make it a third bedroom, but with that space, there's just not enough. There's just no way. So we came up with the idea to do something a little crazy. But of course, it's costing more money out of our budget.
Oh my God. Okay, coming into this room and making that a big closet. So we are going to wall this off, we think. Wall this right here. Make this a closet for that master bedroom and make this just like a really cool, like Sex in the City type sitting room. Kind of like a boudoir kind of thing, so to speak.
Okay, they smashed it out in a hurry, and they charged me another $5,000 to do this. And I want y'all to look and tell me if you think it's worth it. All right, Aaron, here, and then you come in. Then we have this little like area, one door there, one door here, and then you come right in. And then you have your massive fucking,
look at this.
Bam! Massive fucking closet, which goes into your other massive fucking closet.
This is awesome.
As is so typical with real estate investing, as soon as one celebration ends, another challenge begins. And this next one has the potential to cost a lot of money.
Then we're thinking is going to be the big bathroom for all of upstairs. This second bathroom, we're going to get rid of the full bath part of it, but we will be able to keep a half bath of it.
We demoed both of them, but they were both small and you couldn't fit exactly what you wanted to. Another historic element of this home is a clawfoot tub, and I'll be damned, I'm keeping all the history in this house, and I just couldn't do it with two bathrooms back to back. So I had to do a change order, which cost me $5,000, and we blew out the wall, and we're making one big bathroom suite.
Aaron, so
look at this. I think it looks absolutely amazing.
Laundry in there, shower right there, and then tub right there. We're going to put a double vanity there, but it's a little tight. What do you think?
And we also have the 1908 original door from this house, and we could not figure out what to do with it because I am terrible at designing things. So we asked Instagram what to do with the door, came up with a great idea of putting it on the bedroom that leads to the back porch. I thought that was an amazing idea because you couldn't put it inside. It was an exterior door, and you didn't want to put it back originally on the house because we already had a door. Okay, we are back downstairs in the kitchen area now, and it's about to get even more expensive. So now would be a good time for us to have a little catch up about the numbers. Last time we checked in, we were at about $115,000, reminding you that the budget was only $100,000. Since the $115,000 though, we had to open up the shower and do more demo in there. So that's another $5,000. And we did another $5,000 of a closet. So we're now at $125,000 in our budget, which is not good. That's 25% over, which is absolutely terrible. On top of that, we're having them open up the kitchen as well. And I can't even remember if that was included in our change order budget already, or if I'm still waiting on the invoice with that. I know that they're doing an entire island, a custom island for us. And honestly, since I know what's coming, the biggest surprise expense, you're going to see it in this episode, but it's still yet to come.
But I wanted to call for the order that Dean was working on, for the cabinets that they all pulled forward and everything. What happened with that?
Every real estate investor has their favorite days. The days when they feel like they're actually making progress. The day that they feel like things are moving forward. And it's different for everybody. But for me, it's always been when painting happens. I don't care if they're only painting one room and the rest of the house is still down to the studs. Something about watching primer go up on a wall to me says, all right, we are actually going to make this project happen. I remember how excited I felt when the painting was done on that one historic flip. But as you well know, I shouldn't have been excited at all because the worst was yet to come. And I hope that doesn't happen to this one, because I'm starting to feel a lot of similarities in these two projects. And those memories are not something I'm looking to relive. That historic house flip that I did that turned out really poorly not only hit me financially, but it also hit me mentally. I actually took a whole year off of real estate, and it convinced me that I wasn't cut out for it. I tried to go do other things. I went to a beach, tried to do some social media marketing, always just trying to start another entrepreneurial thing, but nothing stuck like real estate. And for an entire year, I just thought I wasn't born for this. And I think the harsh truth in all this is that you can't sit around after a big failure and just wallow in it. I could have just written down my mistakes in 10 minutes and maybe taken a week off, gone to the beach, and then just moved on. But instead, I let it paralyze me. I sacrificed a year of experience, a year of deal making, a year of working with people that I like, and a year in a business that I find challenging and I enjoy and I want to pursue. And that is the worst part. Had I known then what I know now, I would have called up a friend or paid some money and called a coach. But I didn't even think to do that. That's how bad my mentality was. So that's actually something that I do with people now. I do coaching with them, and it's in hopes to save them from some of those big mistakes that take them away from something that they love. Those big mistakes that rob them of time. They're going to happen whether I coach you or someone else coaches you, but it's all about figuring out a way to come back from that and to stay in the game. And that is something that we talk about all the time with the people that I'm coaching. So if you're interested in that, link in the description, whether it be from me or someone else. I think it is worth every penny to do it because you get to learn from all these expensive, timely mistakes that other people have made. And you don't have to have the same learning curve that they did, which is a huge blessing. Speaking of mistakes, let's talk about this exterior paint color. And I have not picked the exterior paint color. We obviously cannot leave it blue. So as you can see right here, once again, I'm letting Instagram design the house. I have no design aesthetic. Your boy has been sleeping on a mattress on the floor for most of his adult life. So I let Instagram decide. People overwhelmingly chimed in when I asked for a paint color, and they voted for light beige with bright white trim. This is us trying out all the samples and all the swaths on the house just to double check that Instagram made the right decision. The neighbors loved the Instagram decision, and everything was going according to plan until it once again spiraled out of control and is threatening to ruin this entire project.
So we are struggling to figure out what the right paint color here would be. We have a couple different options. We're thinking maybe this one or maybe this one with some white trim. Problem is, it's gonna be expensive.
So then we made a decision and we said, okay, start with the trim. So you can see right here, they are going and doing all the trim around the house white, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. It really makes the thing pop. The neighbors dropped by. As you can see right here, the neighbors, I took them through the house because you really want to show, here's a pro tip as well for renovations. It's very tempting just to do renovations. It's your house, it's your money, it's your cruise, by yourself and not ask anyone's opinion and just say, this is what I like, so I'm going to make it happen. That's very valid. However, neighbors are affected by renovations. Sometimes they are up all night listening to the renovation. Sometimes they get woken up in the morning by the guys when they're coming to the job. So it's very inconvenient sometimes for a neighbor. And I always found a way to handle that is to knock on your doors to the neighbors, introduce yourself, and invite them into the process. There was a neighbor on the right side. You can actually see her house right here. And she was so mean to the guys, that the guys would text me every morning and say, hey, she's out here like harassing us. And one day It got so bad she called the cops, and the cops came by. And I said, oh God, I have to talk to her. So I drove there, and she wasn't around, but she did text me later that night. And she said, hey, I'm the neighbor, and I'm, fed up with this, this, and this. But I jumped in and I said, listen, anything that they did wrong, you let me know. We're going to fix it. And let me know any kind of ongoing complaints you have, and I'll greatly address them. But then I also said, hey, listen, I need your opinion. Your house is beautiful. It is beautiful. And I love what you did with the place. We're trying to make this as nice as possible. What do you think about this paint color? And ever since then, her and I are buddies. We talk about the paint colors. We talk about the landscaping. We talk about what we like and don't like. However, her opinion did not save me from what could potentially be the worst mistake of this entire renovation process that I just made. We had all those samples painted on the house. And as soon as they dried, I said, okay, this is the one. Let's rock and roll with this one all across the exterior. I absolutely love it. They did that. And they did that in about a day. So they really crushed it. And I came back the next day and I looked at the paint color that was painted all over my house that we were already over our budget on. And I did not like it. You can see the paint color right here. For some reason, I pulled up the next day and there was just a lump in my throat. I just felt nauseous, knowing that this is not how I wanted it to look. And what happened, Stephen? What, did you change it? Did you not change it? Well, I asked them how much it would cost to change it. And they said it's going to cost $8,000 to change that exterior paint color. And I don't know what to do. So you're going to have to watch the next episode because I really truly have not made a decision yet. It would have been one thing if I hated it so much that I just had to pay the $8,000, but it's not that it's terrible. It's just not great. And that's bothering the shit out of me. So I have to really sit down and make some serious decisions about how I want to move forward with this project. And if I can live with something that I know is not exactly right.
We are already about $22,000 over budget, and the timelines are ever increasing. And I had high hopes that I could get the timelines back on track and the budget reined in until this happened. I left one day, and the next morning when I came back to the job site, I saw this. Now, the good news is that the guys were busting their ass and made a ton of progress. The bad news is I absolutely hated the paint color. It looked nothing like the color that we did a sample on the front porch. And this can ruin everything. But also reputation-wise, I've done a historic house renovation before, and it turned out horribly. I talked about that in the last video. So this one has to be perfect in every way. So seeing this, I immediately talked to the crew and said, hey, my bad, but how much would this cost to redo it? And they figured out their numbers and they said it's going to cost $8,500. I said $8,500. That's such an interesting amount of money because it's almost small enough that it's worth it, but it's also too expensive that it's not worth it. So the only other option I had was to go to Instagram and ask opinions.
This was supposed to be white. I don't know if I like it or not. It kind of turned out tan. What do we think?
I'm going to ask y'all the same thing. Here's a video of some of the neighbors' houses just for context. Now, would you keep it or would you change it? Overwhelmingly, the Instagram votes came in and 67% of people said it's fine, save your money. So exhausted by my indecisiveness, I let the guys go back to work. Probably not going to be too happy though, because as you know, we make these videos in real time. And just last night, I'm going to change that ceiling color on the porch to a haint blue, which is a more historic element that we need to introduce in. Something that's been bothering me about this house the entire time is a historic home renovation should look like a historic home. I see things online all the time where people take these beautiful historic antiques and make them these newly modern cookie cutter new construction type homes. And for some reason, as we were going through this process, it felt like we were doing the same thing here. So that's been on my mind over the last couple days. And I think I've come up with some clever solutions about what to do, particularly on the exterior. This is just starting to look like a new construction home, and I don't love it. The only problem is it's going to cost us a lot more money. So one night at around 2 in the morning, as I was scrolling through Pinterest looking at Victorian homes, I noticed something. They all have a very unique look on their exterior. You might see it too, but mainly to do with something that they call gingerbread trim. And I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. So I wanted to get it all over our house and put it everywhere. I think that would help me hate the paint color less and help it just look really gorgeous. But there was a huge problem with that. Take a look at these old pictures of the house and tell me if you see the problem. You'll probably spot it right away. It took me a second. You see that little piece of metal on the left side of the door? Well, I'm going to zoom in on something similar from a different screenshot, and you can see what our issue is. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. This one little piece of metal ties our hands in so many different ways. We have to do approvals and submit plans and ask questions and this, and that. So in order to do any trim, we're going to have to go through an incredible, insane application and approval process. And the worst part about that is it's going to increase our already increased timelines. And I'm not sure that if we add trim, we're going to be able to make it on time. But today, I kind of wish trim was our biggest problem.
So that's a new crew that started, and I like them. The old crew was kind of taking advantage, so gave them a long leash, and they took it and they didn't perform. So we got rid of them and brought a new crew in, and this new crew is absolutely killing it, is being absolutely savage on it. Treat them well, they treat me well. We can stay in business together forever, and I wish we could. So I'm very, very hopeful about this new crew.
As much as it sucks losing people that you were close to and enjoyed working with a lot of the time, the show must go on, if you will, and these timelines are not letting up. As we creep closer and closer and closer to the 90 days, we have got to get this project back on track and back on time. Luckily, we are making some pretty good progress. Look at that porch, already a finished porch out back off the second bedroom. And to celebrate, we had the neighbors over to show them what we had been designing and what they think about the house so far. So far, so good, according to the neighbors. And that's what you want, because if the neighbors don't like you, they can make your life really, really difficult. I should have bribed them with some sort of like drinks or snacks or something. Decision fatigue is a huge issue when you get into real estate investing and real estate renovations. Everyone deals with it differently. Steve Jobs was famous for wearing the exact same clothes every day, so he wouldn't have to make little decisions that tired him out. Around here, we do it a little differently. You're about to see a coin flip. And what's riding on this coin flip, you might ask? Well, thousands of dollars. The construction head says we should spend $3,000 to upgrade the bathroom in the back bedroom. I said, let's keep it the same and just stick with the $2,000 budget. Heads or tails? Tails I win, heads he wins.
Tails!
And with that, we got back to work. But not every decision can be made with a heads or tails coin flip. And there's some big decisions that we're going to have to make. But all those are going to have to wait. Because I just got a text from Aaron, the realtor. Would you buy a house that 2 people just recently died in? Well, that was a decision we had to make on Friday.
For sale because.
Oh God,
What the fuck was that?
Oh, it's a...
Is it the creaky hinge?
Yeah.
As a real estate investor, you're always on the brink of some sort of dog attacking you, a pissed off neighbor coming at you with a shotgun, or just some unfriendly ghost that don't want to be disturbed. This one was the latter, and we had to figure out if we wanted to make an offer on this. Now, you may say to yourself, this is ugly as hell. This looks like work. I bet no one in a million years would want this house. Well, you'd be wrong. It's listed for $200,000. It's off market, and it had multiple offers in one day. So we had to rush our little bums over there and hurry up and figure out if the inspection that we needed to do was going to be sufficient, if we could see if there's any foundation issues, if the attic was good, if the roof was good, all the while trying not to be possessed. We decided to pass on this one, but we always have to be looking in real estate. Not only do you have to be looking at new houses all the time, you have to be keeping an eye on the ones you already have. Because while we were away, something unexpected popped up. We had originally taken out the wall and gotten approvals that all the structural supports were needed to create an entire open concept. That turned out to be false. I will save you the long story for a different video. However, we had to put our wall back up. I do think that we can save it aesthetically. It is making us even more over budget than we already are. Without having enough budget, this entire project is going to stop. So we are on literally penny pinching, nickel and diming mode with everything around here. When I was just starting out in real estate investing, I did a project where we blew through the budget so fast and had to come to a grinding halt for months and months and months. It made all the profit absolutely disappear from the house, and it made the entire process a living hell. I wish I knew then what I know now, and that would have been to call someone up and get advice, not just for tactical advice, but also for some moral support. Because having the moral support allows your mind to think not in the Maslow hierarchy of needs so much. It allows you to do high creative problem solving thinking, which leads to better results. I would have absolutely hired a coach and had him or her take me through my mindset shift if I was having a problem, and it would have been worth every penny. That is something that I do now for people. I have a couple little coach students, and it's doing amazing. We're having so much fun, and they call me when they need me. 1 hour of my time, $200, very simple. Not only am I going to offer coaching to everyone watching, I'm going to ask for coaching from everyone watching too, because unfortunately, it's time to make another paint color decision. The last one almost wrecked me, and now we have the interior paint colors, which honestly is probably even more important.
3 or 4 more color. 5.
I'll let you help me decide if you want to. The one on top has some strong yellow undertones, and the one on the bottom is called Greek Villa. That's a piece of trim, just for reference. While we're deciding, we decided to let them mud and to prep, because they are ready and raring to go. And once again, our timelines are ticking down every day. What I want you to look at here is the closet. Do you remember that trunk room that we have? If not, you can go back and watch the first video where I introduced this entire project, but we had a trunk room that we didn't know what to do with. Now we fashioned it into a closet, which I think is going to look absolutely gorgeous. It maintains the antiquity of the trunk room. It maintains the history, but it also gives you the modern elements that you need in a house, which is a huge closet. For all this American consumerism, I'm just teasing, I'm here for it. Is I don't know how to make the doors look chic and cool. Do you put glass doors on a closet in your master bedroom to your closet? Do you do like some sort of sliding door? I don't know. We have to figure that out, because it can really make or break the room. And I am shocked I've never showed you any inspo pictures from here and what we're going for. So this is the inspo for the closet. Now, a quick caveat on this. This is a screenshot from a Victorian home renovation from a rich person. So we're not rich people. It's not going to look like this. But we're trying to go for like a Temu version of this so we can keep it affordable. Here's some other inspo though. This is kind of the bathroom vibes we're going for. What Aaron the Realtor calls it is French contemporary. Strong molding on the ceiling and strong trim, strong crown molding. This is the living room. Just very light, airy, but also rich. We're going for rich without actually being rich. You know what I mean? And this is my favorite picture by far, is this kitchen picture. And I do have something very controversial to say about this kitchen. I saw on Instagram these two guys that were very fashion forward and all their stuff looked great. But one of their biggest pet peeves was being able to see appliances in a kitchen. I have never once thought about appliances in a kitchen and if you should be able to see them or not. Well, spoiler alert, you're not supposed to be able to see them. The guys think it's trashy. And now, every time I look at a kitchen, that's all I can see is trashy appliances. So we're going to try really hard to hide the appliances in this kitchen. And I don't know if y'all like that idea or not, but I think that it should be cool if we can afford it. let's do a quick little budget recap. At the beginning of this episode, I think we were at about 122,000. Mind you, we only had 100,000 to start off with. But throughout this episode, we've easily tacked on another 10 grand. But the biggest expense is yet to come because I am an idiot. You're gonna see this idiot face right here. This is the face of someone that realized that they just fucked up majorly. Okay, look at this. This is a picture of our house. Do you see this driveway where we're painting the sides of the house? That's the neighbor driveway. Where's our driveway, you might ask? That would be a really good question. Because, spoiler alert, we don't have one. Well, we do, but we don't. We have a shared one with the other neighbor on the left. I completely forgot about that. Absolutely slipped my mind. How does that slip my mind? I don't know. There's a million other more pressing things that day, I thought. But I probably should have put that on a post-it note or something somewhere because that's a big damn deal. And if we can't figure out how to maneuver a driveway somewhere, that could cost us up to $50,000. And if that's the case, then none of this project is worth it and there's absolutely no profit. And worse than that, the investor's not going to make any profit either.
Probably the worst thing that can happen on a flip is a stop work order, and that's what we got.
Yesterday, I got a frantic call from the construction foreman that says you need to get down here immediately. I was in Miami, so I booked a one-way flight back that same night because the city man had come in and told everyone to vacate the premises. So we had 16 guys that could no longer work anymore. So I got my ass to the city real quick. As y'all remember, we only have 90 days to complete this flip, or my investor is charging us a huge penalty for the overages, and we're already on almost day 50 by this point. And if y'all have ever dealt with a city or government organization, you would realize something. They're on their own timelines. It makes me very frustrated because obviously we are on timelines, and the woman that I needed to talk to was not there. So I did get her card, and I emailed her twice when I was in the parking lot and called her again to leave a message. You're probably asking yourself, well, what was the stop work order all about? And your guess is really as good as mine because we have gotten approvals for every single thing that we've done, except for one thing. I remember specifically asking before I purchased this house, do we need approvals for an exterior paint color? Because it's an historic home, and 9 times out of 10, you need approvals. I was told that we didn't need approvals, but that's my fault. And I have another huge apology to issue because about an hour after I got back to the job site, I had an email from the city. Number 1, the lady was super nice. She was from the historic board. Number 2, she put me in contact with the number 1 person I need to talk to before I go to her, who's the number 2 person. So the number 1 person was also super freaking nice and gave me an application to fill out, and they had an additional question about the layout. So I went through and marked exactly where we're doing our archway doors and our closets because for some reason they didn't have an update with that. So I told them we're gonna do one into the living room right there. We're gonna actually do one from the kitchen to the living room, which you can't see right there, but we are having to add that archway back. And then we're doing one upstairs, of course, in our master closet. So I'm assuming that cleared it up, but I still have not gotten any sort of approval that we can move forward yet. So it could be weeks, it could be months. However, not all is lost because they still were able to make an amazing amount of progress before they did get shut down.
This bathroom is sexy, way sexier than I thought it was going to be. For some reason, this just looks so good. We have our tub right there, the historic tub, and then a huge bathroom, some his and hers, or his and his, or hers and hers sink. And we need to figure out something kind of fun to do here because when you walk in, it's a little boring. So any ideas that y'all have would be awesome.
In addition to the bathroom getting done, we put some sick steps on the front porch. Now, this is another thing that I think might have gotten us in trouble with the city. After we did these steps, we put a little bit of shiplap on the base because the base is ugly and concrete and just looks like shit. So we put a little shiplap on there. However, I think that was bad too, because I think that the shiplap triggered some sort of historic bad thing, and we had to go fix it. They also made a shit ton of progress up in the master bedroom, which is great. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about everything until I remember something. This is the face of someone that realized that they just fucked up majorly. Okay, look at this. This is a picture of our house. Do you see this driveway where we're painting the sides of the house? That's the neighbor driveway. Where's our driveway, you might ask? That would be a really good question. Because, spoiler alert, we don't have one. Well, we do, but we don't. We have a shared one with the other neighbor on the left. I completely forgot about that. Absolutely slipped my mind. If we can't figure out how to maneuver a driveway somewhere, that could cost us up to $50,000. 30 days ago, we bought this abandoned Victorian home, and last week was an absolute disaster, and this week is not getting any better. So last week we got shut down by the city, but do you see that right there? It doesn't tell us why we got shut down by the city. So I had to Scooby-Doo that mystery, and when I did, it was a shocking revelation. First of all, as you can see right here, we are in the historic district, but we're on the edge of the historic district. So that means that we are having to go in front of a semi-judicial architectural review board. What we really have to go do now is get a certificate of design approval to start back, because no one has been working for this last week and a half, which is not good. Just to remind you that we have 90 days to finish this renovation, or my investor is charging me $30,000, which is just absolutely insane. So what did I think it was? I thought it was the paint color that we chose that got us shut down. But when I emailed the city, I was shocked about what they said. They asked me to submit a application, which I did, and our layout, which you can see right there, showing that we're doing a little bit of closet adding and taking down some walls and adding some walls. They said, thank you so much for the paperwork. It sounds like you're doing outside minimal work outside, but it should be helpful to do a meeting on site for 15 to 20 minutes, which is almost the equivalent of getting called into the principal's office as a kid. And it basically just gave me PTSD from when I was throwing blocks in kindergarten and got in trouble. So they came out and did an entire inspection. And I do want to note that the woman that I met with was probably one of the sweetest ladies in the entire world, but she did throw me for an absolute loop. So a couple days before we got shut down by the city, I said, hey, someone's going to trip and fall to their death on these stairs because the concrete was janky as hell, frankly. So I had them put up some nice wooden stairs. Obviously, we're attempting to resell this and we want it to be super nice for the next person. That was the problem. She did some more research and said, hey, listen, the concrete and brick steps are by far the most common historical architectural element, I guess, in the entire neighborhood, so you have to rip them up. So we did, which feels really bad because the stairs cost me like $3,500. But as a reward for all of our patience, we got the coveted certificate of design approval, which means we were back in business and everyone was starting to work again. But this project was about to get a lot more interesting. If you've watched the first episode of this series, this is episode 4, you'll remember that there was a kind of crazy story that as soon as I bought this home, someone came by in this very 1970s looking old pickup truck, slowed down and said very mysteriously, have you heard the history of this house? And at that point, I was pretty overwhelmed and he was giving off bad vibes. So I said, no, I didn't. And he said, well, a lot has happened here and I'm going to bring by a box for you to look at. And I kind of internally, I was like, I wish you wouldn't. But this week he came back by and what he brought shocked us all. I was over at the house looking at the medallions that had just came in just to see if they were something that we liked. And it turned out we did like them. And while we were reaching for the next box, we discovered something that was not there the day before.
Wow, I had no clue, bro.
Oh, this is cool. I think he must have brought it over, right? Oh, dope.
Morgan, what photograph is? Did somebody bring those or you found them? In a bucket?
There was photographs and documents from the neighborhood's entire history, but what we found next made me actually pretty emotional. That's so cool. I think this is so cool.
Is that it? For real?
Yeah, right? And what we found in the back of the box was the oldest picture that we have of the home that shows a mother, her dog, and her young son back in what I believe was the 1930s. I took it outside and put it in front of our home, and something about that picture made me so emotional to think that we have an opportunity and we are a small piece in the history and the timeline of this entire home that has seen generations of people love, live in it, pass away in it, and send it to a next generation. Something about seeing the dog and the kid was really impactful. And as I'm sure they had to think about too, we have to think about bills right now. So we are getting back to work. And I want to show you some of the design inspo that we're going for. I touched a little bit on that in the last episode, but there's been some choices that we have to make that I'm going to really need your help with, because these choices could make or break this entire project, and I'm really struggling with them. So I need your help. We're going to start this out on beginner mode, and I'm going to show you the easy choices first, and then we're going to scale up to expert level design choices that I need your help with. So this is kind of the inspo that we're going for, and I just felt that we were giving too much of an open concept here. And of course we want to preserve the history. So we're thinking about doing some sort of arches and archways, right? Okay, that's the easy question first, because I think everyone can get on board with liking archways. Are you ready to scale it up and make it a little more difficult? Well, now we have to get into some lighting. Now, once again, this is a Victorian home that has a long history that we want to update and meet in the middle of modern and historic. So these are some of the lighting choices and design elements that we're thinking about doing throughout the home. Some of these could be in the living room, and some of these can be, pendant lights above the island and in the dining room. So what do y'all think about all those? Drop your comments in there. All right, so that's the medium out of the way. Now it's going to get a lot harder. You can see we put up some molding. We're going to put them panels all throughout the walls of the house and also in the ceiling. Here's a quick little side quest for y'all while you're waiting for us to ramp up to the harder questions. Here's a little side question. There is the historic door that they left in the middle of the living room, and we need to figure out something really cool and amazing to do with that. All right. Now that we got this out of the way, let's rock and roll. The big choice that we have to make, or one of the big choices that we have to make, is what to do with this stairwell. It's a little more closed in than how it originally was because we added a little more stuff to it, but we're still going to have this massive stairwell that needs to look kind of dramatic and beautiful. I have an idea and I want to run it past you because this stairwell can really make or break the entire upstairs. So this video I found online, I'm going to show you in 1 second, and there's a lot to love about this video, but there's also a lot to hate. So I'm ping-ponging it to you to get your opinion. So I think that foil type ceiling is what I want to rock with in that stairwell that I just showed you. What do you think about that? All right, now we're getting to the harder mode. Let me show you the original dining room. This leads in from the living room to the dining room. Now that looks familiar because I just showed you how it looks now with a little bit of mold on it. And, obviously that right there is an archway. So we need a little drama in the dining room. What do you think about this?
So this is actually a mural from Anthropology. I saw it online. Someone had their dining room wallpapered in it, so they must have had multiple because it's only so large. Loved it. Might feel a little bit overwhelming to fill the room with the wallpaper, so I decided to use the ornate trim work around it to just kind of create a moment that would ultimately frame out the television. And so the trim work that you see on the wall is mirrored on the ceiling, none of which was here. Again, this room was a total renovation, as was every room. We took it down to the studs, redid the plaster, smooth coated, fixed the trim, and then added back in details that may have originally been here, like the molding details. So this was just a really fun way to play up what we added to the ceiling, on the walls, and just give this room kind of a grounding presence and wow without being overwhelming. This room is pretty much where my 12-year-old son spends most of his time watching sports. So we all hang out as a family in here. We'll do movie nights in here because it's a big couch that we can all kind of climb onto.
Is it too much? Is it not enough? I love the drama. I love the flair of it, but I need y'all's opinion. And that original picture with the mother and her son and the dog, I'm thinking about doing something like she did there, which is getting it framed and making it look like a sketch. And guys, I have to admit, I lied to you right now because this was not the hardest part of this whole video. Do you see the exterior of this house? Do you see this part of the house? That's the right side of the driveway, which is the neighbor's driveway. And then you're gonna say, all right, well then your driveway's on the left, but it's not. And guys, I've been struggling with this for 3 weeks because we don't have a freaking driveway. Now, in order for us to get out of this renovation with any money at all, we have to match the comps. And the problem is every single comp has a driveway, but we don't. So what are we going to do with our driveway? I've asked this for the last 3 videos, and I am still going back and forth trying to figure out what our best course of action is. If we do too much, we're going to have to go back to the historic board and ask them for permission to do things again. So we are at an absolute loss. We are 45 days into our abandoned Victorian home renovation, and I'm just going to keep it 100 with y'all. This has not been a good week. I get a call on Friday from the project manager that said all the guys are refusing to show up to work on Monday. And I said, why are they refusing to show up to work? And he said, because they want to get paid more. And I said, well, that's crazy because we have a contract that says everyone gets paid in 1/3. So 1/3 up front, 1/3 in the middle, and 1/3 at the end. And we are already past the middle, so 2/3 of the entire budget has already been paid to you. And the project manager said, yeah, but they want to get paid for the extras and they want to get paid right now. And that's a very fair thing to ask for. But I said, what extras? He said, well, there's 2 archways that they want to get paid for. And I said, how much could, 2 archways be? $500 a piece, $1,000 a piece. That's fine. I'll pay that. And he said, no, they want, another $30,000. I said, that's insane. Like, what are you talking about? So I called the crew. There's the project manager who you see right here. I'm trying not to show his face, and the actual crew that's like doing all the work. So I called the crew and I was like, hey, how much have you gotten paid this entire time? Like, something's fishy, something's not right. And they don't speak English. So I had to we're using translator apps. So they've only been paid $30,000. And I've paid $65,000 just on labor alone. So that means the project manager, allegedly, because I don't know if this is going to go to court or not, is holding on to another $30,000 that he has not paid the guys. Now the guys are refusing to come, and he's trying to gaslight us to say that it's because of a couple $1,000 extra archways. So that's a huge problem. And so I said, all right, let's deal with this head on. And Monday morning, we're all having a meeting. Let's do it. The project manager said, no, the crew refuses to meet with you on Monday. And then I contacted the crew, and the crew says, I'm down to meet on Monday. The project manager told us not to come on Monday, and I'm scared that the project manager is going to ruin my life. Now, I don't know if that was like a rough translation and he meant something else, but that's pretty serious words. So that is where we are. And let's just remind you that there is a 90-day timeline to finish this project, or else the investor is charging me a huge penalty. And we are 47 days into it maybe now, and we have basically no crew. They're all, they're refusing to work, and they will not sit down and address it. I can't get everyone in the same room to address it. So I got to figure that out. Let's circle back around to that. I should have really known because we were doing another project, and the crew from that other project said that they didn't get paid either what we agreed to, but I didn't work with them before, so I didn't know who to trust. It looks like should be trusting the crews. So more updates will come about how we deal with that. But I have footage from the first day we met with the project manager, and this is what the realtor said.
He says he can get this all done in 3 to 4 weeks.
I think he's full of shit.
I want to believe him, but 3 to 4 weeks is an insane timeline for renovation of a historic house.
Correct. So to me, he's already starting off 1 foot
Not so good.
off of the ledge.
So in slightly happier news, though, one of the problems I've been struggling with for the last couple weeks was about this driveway. Now, if you remember, we don't have a driveway. The two neighbors have our driveways, and we just have a shared driveway. But we're not going to be able to get the highest amount on the comps unless we have somewhere for these people to park. And we finally figured it out, thank God. So we're putting pads down on the right side and the left side of those bricks. Now, the bricks are very tricky because if you're a regular watcher of this series, you'll remember that last week, I believe last episode rather, the city came and shut us down for doing some exterior work that wasn't permitted. And what they said wasn't permitted was the steps. We put some wood on the steps and they didn't like that. So we took the wood down. However, during that process, we realized that the bricks were historic as well. So we can't really touch the bricks. We can pull up the bricks and put them back down, but they have to stay generally in the same place. So we're putting a pad on the right side and the left side of the house to allow someone to at least pull up and park a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but I feel like at this point, we're just going to rock and roll with kind of, the best we can. And that really is what house flipping is all about from my experience. I've done 115 of these things. You think you would get better at it the more you do it, but every single house is this interesting Rubik's Cube of bullshit that you have to figure out. And you have to make sure that you get your numbers right at the beginning, because if you don't get your numbers right, the Rubik's Cube and all the work that you do is going to net you no profit at the end, and it's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be worth the time and the frustration. So you got to get your numbers right. Another thing you have to get right, which they are doing superbly, is your molding and crown and your design aesthetic. So we are trying to keep the original vibes of this Queen Anne Victorian house, and we decided to put some mold and trim up. And it's always a toss-up until you start to see it up, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. What do y'all think? This was one of the highlights of the week because at least this went right. Actually, now that I am thinking about it and reading my notes of what to talk to y'all about, there's something that didn't go right in this process, which we still have to figure out, but I'll get to that in a minute. So that got done, and we are doing this on the downstairs and the upstairs, and we do think that that's going to be a really beautiful thing. There was a little bit of challenge between, do we paint the entire ceiling, wall, and crown all the same color, or do we do a ceiling a different color and the crown a different color? So here are the infamous archways that the project manager is trying to tell us the crew wants $10,000 for, or they have to walk off. So we're dealing with that. But one interesting aspect of this, and this is really kind of the fun part of a renovation, when you start to get the drywall up and when you start to be able to put a prime coat on and start to do this. So it's finally coming together, and that does give me a little bit of hope in terms of moving forward. What is super interesting and kind of a mind screw about this business is that even if you're losing money or a project is not moving forward, you have to be looking out for the next one, and you have to stop what you're doing and go look for the next one. So my employee, who is a acquisition specialist, found this one, and he's like, you have to get over there right now. They want $100,000 for this, and it's literally been abandoned for 18 years. A tree fell on the roof, and their water and the rain has been leaking in. Look at that creepy ass doll. The water and rain has been leaking into this house for 18 years. So this is a huge project. You can see some of the water damage, and it's gone from the roof all the way down to the basement. That's the bad news. The good news is, what a sick looking house, right? The comps on the right side was basically the exact same floor plan, the exact same builder, and it was $295,000. So the owner wants 100, we'd have to put 120 in, so very tight margins. I offered the owner 80,000 for that, which is still pretty high, honestly, because even though the comp is 295, there's other comps on the area that are not selling for like 260. So it's going to be kind of a gamble. I will say though, it's a cool house. It's pretty inspiring. It kind of fits this zombie house vibe that we're trying to go to. And I do think we might be able to make 40 or 50K in it, but it's going to be a shit ton of work. And I don't know if I have the energy to do it right now. So back to the pressing issue. As you can see, we're getting our archways in. The main thing that we have to do now is design this as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And that's a challenge. So in house flipping, you have designers, you have architects, you have the crew, you have the project manager, you have the realtors. You just have so many pieces to orchestrate. And that's what I feel like a lot of people fail to realize about this business, is that it's mostly orchestration. So, or orchestrating, I don't know if that's even the proper term. So when a lot of people say, oh, I love houses, I want to get into real estate investing and fix and flipping, or I'm a really good designer, I think I should fix and flip houses. I say, listen, that's one crucial part of the process, but there's about 800 other parts too. So you can't just design an entire business around a speciality that you think you might have. And I think it's almost just as important to realize what business that you shouldn't be in, as opposed to what business you should be in. So just a kind of caution word of advice, if you're watching this and thinking, oh, I'm a good designer, I want to flip a house, just realize that there's a lot more to it than just design. There's things like crews not showing up, project managers keeping half the money that you gave them, having to enforce things in court or whatever. So there's always something. Now, are we going to be able to get this project done in time and on budget? Well, on budget, no, because we've already gone over budget. In time, though, maybe still. We got our island in and the tile is down and things are starting to generally take shape. Now, can we still sustain this timeline since we're not going to have a crew on Monday? I don't know. I definitely don't know. We're going to have to problem solve, and I'm telling you my problem solving around that in a second. But you can see what design choices we're going for. We're going for a dark green fog, I think it's what it's called, on the cabinets and on the island. And we also got this expensive freaking refrigerator that you can do panel doors. So the doors are going to be hidden, which I think is great. Do you see the door that they're working on right now? That leads to the master bedroom. That's a huge problem according to the realtor, because usually you'd walk out there and you can go outside to your little outdoor area, but now you're gonna have to go through a bedroom. I still think it's fine because we have we have a huge shower and a huge closet in there. It should be fine, but the realtor is really giving me some flack about it. But I don't really know what else to do. We had to stick a bedroom in there, like what the hell are you supposed to do? Anyway, we're at about $142,000 right now. Our original rehab budget was 100, so we have gone over that by 42%, and that is something that you're just going to see all the time in house flipping. You really do. And what's unfortunate is that lots of these rehab draws are contingent upon the house being done. So if the crew's not there getting the work done, I can't get my rehab draws, which means my entire business cash flow is screwed up, which ergo means that it's going to be really hard to buy this next house because the cash flow is not there.
This has not been a good week. So let me catch you up to speed about what happened. We had met this amazing project manager and he had good vibes. So I put a contract together and I said, you're hired on 3 of my house flips. You can have all 3 of them. They're all yours. Let's get going. You have good vibes. And everything was great. First one got done. There was a mysterious $5,000 change order that he asked me to pay at the end of it. He said that the crew demanded it because there were some things that needed to be done. So they just went ahead and did it without consulting me. And I said, all right, that's fine. Don't let it happen again. It's in the contract where that's not supposed to happen, but it's fine. It's fine. Well, that was a mistake. So the second project, something similar happened. Got a change order, and there was no crew working on the house when I went there one day. And I said, that's weird. Where's the crew? He said, well, they really want to be paid for that change order. And I said, we just talked about this on the last house. The change orders are supposed to be submitted in writing, and I didn't even have any change orders. So what are you talking about? And he said, well, let me try to do something for you. Let me try to, I'm in this for a long haul. I love you. Like we're so close. We're so dope. I'll try to make something work. And then the next day there's a crew there and it got finished up. And I didn't even think twice about it because we have so many other things going on. I show up one day and the workers are not there anymore. And I said, where are the crew? And he said, well, you're not paying for the change orders. So they walked off. So they walked off for my change orders. What change orders are we talking about? He said, well, you wanted 2 archways. And I said, how much is an archway? And he's like, well, going to be a couple grand. I said, like, I'm pretty sure an archway is about $500 a piece because you just saw off drywall and make it an arch. And he said, no, they need, 5-10 grand to show back up and get going. But I'm going to find you another crew because, they were hard to work with. Turns out the other crew had kept on calling me. The crew was calling me this whole time. So I finally picked up and I was like, guys, what happened? Where are you? We've only been paid $25,000. And I was like, well, that's a big damn problem because I paid $75,000. And of course they don't trust me. Why would they trust me? No one's giving them any money and they think it's me because that's what this project manager has said. So I said, all right, well, I paid by credit card. I paid by Square. So I said, look at all these transactions I paid to this guy through Square. And the crew said, oh my God, look at all the Venmos that he sent. So the crew was right, 25,000. And I was right, 75,000 for me, 25,000 to the crew. On top of all that, you have to go look for your next projects because I have 3 of them closing eventually. And you still have to be on the lookout, which is such a mind fuck when you're in this business because you can have the worst week ever. You can have absolutely no money. You can be losing $50,000, $60,000 from a bad project manager. And you still have to keep on going. I went to look at another house. I'm so glad I'm filming this because something just happened that is a huge lesson in real estate. Let me tell you. So I was here and I was looking at the house, and then the neighbor from the other side of the house came up and introduced himself, and he said that he has property here for years and years and has like 3 rental houses now, and how he would be so careful and wouldn't touch the house I'm interested in with the 10-foot pole, and how he's an expert and he would still absolutely not do it. And I was walking to the house, he's like, let me come with you. And so he went inside and just picked apart every single thing. And granted, it's a terrible house, so he's not wrong. But what's probably really happening is, if I had to guess, is that he wants to add to his portfolio. So he was just really trying to scare me. And that happens all the time.
Surprise, surprise, we are done. So how did it go? Let's do a recap because it got even more interesting since the last video I filmed. We brought a crew in that had a project manager, a new project manager, the son of one of my investors, and he brought a crew in that I believe some of them were homeless because I believe they were living in the house at night, and I believe they were smoking meth. So needless to say, their tile work wasn't great, and I walked in towards the end of the project and there was mismatched tiles all put on the walls, and we didn't have any money to fix it, so we had to rock and roll with those tiles. But got a new crew in, and I think it's looking beautiful. We turned the electricity off because when it was sitting on the market, the bills were like 600 bucks a month, so we're not doing that. But I can show you right here in this video the walkthrough, and I'm gonna show you the listing photos. I think they turned out chef's kiss. So, did we make our 90-day goal? Of course not. We blew right past it. It's actually been almost a year. Shocking, I know, shocked me because I've been paying the 4,000 bucks a month to hold on to that for the last year. Not good, it's a lot of money. And then we listed it for $499 and got a couple showings. People came in, they didn't love it. So then we had to drop the price. We dropped the price for $475, still nothing, dropped it to $449, which is about $50,000 less than the neighbor on the left sold for, and about $150,000 less than the neighbor on the right, even though that was kind of semi-new construction. So we're just sitting and waiting right now. And since I didn't want to pay the bills anymore on that mortgage, then I found someone to rent it. So someone's going to rent it on a month-to-month basis. And I talked to the person's dad, because it's a kind of a college-age kid, and her roommates. And then the dad's going to do personal guarantee for the rent, which is very, very good, and I'm happy to have them there. And they're going to be month to month until May. I gave them a discount on the rent so they would let showings in because we're going to keep it on the market. So at least you can hold out for your highest price if your carrying costs are dialed back and turned back as much as possible. So getting a renter in there is going to allow us to hold out for, hopefully a price closer to what we want, around that $450. So kind of a crazy thing. I learned that I'm not doing any more house flips this year unless it's like a really, really great opportunity. I am still working on one right now, and I'll do a video about that, but I'm leaning all into wholesaling. It fits way more my personality type, way more my energy level. It goes quick. There's no investors. There's no construction crews. There's none of the detail-oriented minutia that I hate so much. It's all sales, all deal making, all fun, all high energy all the time. So I really want to be a business that is going fast and is remote and fits more my life, right? As opposed to having to fit into the house flipper's life. I want a business to fit my life, which is freedom and fun and making deals and speed. And I like that adrenaline of that. So that's what we're leaning into in 2026. Watch all the videos. I will document the other process, and reach out if you want some coaching, because I'm very good at what not to do. No, I've done this a million times, so I will be able to help you avoid some of the mistakes that I've made.